Hey, I'm Savannah in for Hallie. Happy to have you with us. And tonight we've got a light at the end of the tunnel for Southwest and its customers ahead of the new year. The airline's saying just before we came on the air that they're expecting to fly close to 4,000 flights tomorrow and that its schedule is getting back on track. Tonight, though, we're seeing more than 2,300 cancellations across the country. That's about 58% of all of Southwest flights. The airline says its plans to return to normal operations with minimal disruptions tomorrow. And another day of seas of unclaimed luggage in airports across the country. Look at these images.
I really don't trust them in getting them back in the right manner, so we'll take matters into our own hands.
I've spent about 9.5 hours trying to get through to Southwest, just on hold with them.
Now, we told you yesterday, airlines like United, American, and Delta were capping their prices through Monday, but some flights are still selling for way more than usual, sometimes starting at more than $1,000 for domestic flights, like ones from D.C. to L.A. Nyala Charles joins me on all this. Now, Nyala, good to have you with us. So we've got this good news, a little bit of good news anyway, from Southwest. How was the airline able to get back on track, and do we think we will see them nearly back to normal tomorrow?
Well, Southwest says it's been able to realign crews and schedules so this entire thing started before Christmas due to the winter storm. The reason why they were so disproportionately affected compared to other airlines in the first place, Savannah, is because they operate on a point-to-point flight system, which means every plane runs consecutive routes, picking up different crews along the way. Usually that means because of that, Southwest is able to operate more flights than other airlines. However, in a case like this, once a destination isn't reached, it causes a ripple effect in terms of cancellation. So that's why they say they've been impacted so heavily here. If you look here on my right, you'll see a lot of baggage. That's something that Southwest is still dealing with, trying to connect luggage to passengers, because although they've flown out a lot of baggage to the final destinations, the passengers themselves have not necessarily made it. So in the meantime, some of these bags have been here for days. Since we've been here in the beginning of the week, we haven't seen much movement here in terms of baggage, and that's been frustrating for people because stranded passengers, that means, have gone days without the essential items in their bags. Some people telling me they even had medication in there, so they've learned the hard way not to put important items in their check-in luggage. Savannah?
Oh, my goodness, you just feel so bad for people. And that mountain of luggage behind you right there just looks like a nightmare. But, I mean, the airline's saying it will do right by its customers. Obviously, that means a lot of different things to different people in terms of getting their bags back. It sounds like they're still having issues with that. But what about with refunds? I mean, are customers going to get their money back? And in a way that doesn't mean they have to be on hold for 20 hours or something crazy?
Right. So, I mean, if you ask the customers that I've spoken to, you can see some people flying in. They're one of the few lucky ones, since for the past several days, the majority of Southwest flights have been canceled, and they are not happy. They don't feel like they've been done right at all. They say over the past several days, they've been trying to contact Southwest customer service to get on a different flight or get refunds, and that hasn't happened for them. So there's a lot of frustration. Meantime, late last night, Southwest put a form on its website where people can submit requests for refunds, and they say they'll also honor other reasonable requests for refunds that they find for extra things that people have had to pay for during this, like extra hotel costs, gas, food, that sort of thing. But all of that is being evaluated on a case-by-case basis. And in the meantime, some people tell me they've spent thousands of dollars on all of that. And at this point, Southwest hasn't said when they will get that money to people. Savannah?
And of course, this all happened during the holiday season, impacting people's abilities to get to be with their family. You just feel for people. Nyala, thank you so much. We'll stay on top of this. Now, today we're learning the number of people killed in that massive winter storm we've been talking about is going up even more. Now 39 people are dead across the Buffalo area, and officials are actually expecting that number to go up, especially as they lift the ban on driving there. People are finally allowed back on the road tonight after almost a week. Now, there are 600 pieces of snow removal equipment out on the street today. Temperatures are supposed to jump into the 50s tomorrow. Now, that's going to help melt all the snow on the roads, but then all that moisture has to go somewhere, which is what local officials are now worried about, especially with the forecast calling for rain this weekend. Buffalo could end up seeing flooding after already being hit so hard by this winter storm. Marissa Para joins me now on this. Marissa, good to have you with us. So how big of a deal could this flooding be, and how are officials trying to get ready for it?
Hey, Savannah. So just to kind of paint a picture for you here, we've been here all morning, all day, all afternoon. And what we watched was the evolution of the snow melting around us. I mean, to give you a little bit of perspective, we were standing in what was inches of snow. And now when I look down, I'm standing in grass, and not just grass, but it is wet, sopping, mushy grass because the snow has melted so rapidly. So I will say that there was initially a large concern about flooding. They were worried about that snow melt being so accelerated in conjunction with rain this weekend. And I will say that it looks like the forecast is actually turned in Buffalo's favor, which is a good thing because Buffalo's been through enough. Now, New York Governor Hochul did deploy state resources and aid ahead of what they were worried could be large flooding concerns. So they have 800,000 sandbags in place as well as generators and pumps. But the good news here, Savannah, is that it's not expected to be anything catastrophic in terms of flooding. However, there could be some flooded basements, which is just an extra headache after a very difficult week.
Oh, absolutely. Marissa, I also want to just ask you sort of about the response here and what's going on now, because we actually heard this county official reference a comment that he made at a press conference about the mayor of Buffalo, because there's been some finger pointing about who's to blame over what's been seen as a poor response to the storm, right? Can you tell us about that?
Right. So, I mean, obviously tensions are high everywhere. Tensions are high among the people who live here. They're frustrated, they're angry, and they're sad, which makes sense. I mean, this is an area that knows snow. We just had a snowstorm a month ago. We ourselves were here on the ground, and we did not see the same death toll. And the conditions in general for this snowstorm were different, right? There were much colder temperatures, negative 20 degrees. We had much higher wind gusts of upwards of 70 miles per hour. So in general, those were much more unsurvivable conditions. When we look at the death toll, the vast majority of people who died as a result of exposure. They were either outside, they were maybe trapped in homes that didn't have heat. A lot of people lost power as a result of outages. And so I think that what we have are just, one, different conditions, but two, people are wondering what could have been done differently. People were wondering if maybe the driving ban could have been put in place earlier. So certainly moving forward, a lot of questions on what could have been done different, what can be done different next time.
Now, Marissa, we, of course, saw so many sad stories come out of Buffalo these past few days as people were trapped in homes and cars and lives were tragically lost. But I know there were also these stories of kindness, of heroes. A lot of people living in the Buffalo area relying on each other, on their neighbors to get through this. Tell us about some of that.
I'm really glad you asked because I've seen a lot of that around me. On a small level, we saw a woman who had lost her home due to burst pipes, and she was staying in a hotel. And there's people who live around Buffalo that bought her dinner today. And my producer, Will, just told me about that. And that just happened in front of us. But then we have people on a larger scale. We have the quote-unquote Bills Mafia digging out homes that needed rescuing. We have a Facebook group, upwards of 70,000 members, offering people who need it any resources, whether it's shoveling, giving them a baby formula, which we know is a local shortage here, whatever they need. We're seeing that in times of tragedy, time and time again, community steps up. Savannah?
Just a tiny little glimmer of good news there because people are so good. Such a good reminder. Marissa, thank you so much. Stay warm, stay safe. Now, switching gears here, NBC News has confirmed that Representative-elect George Santos is under federal investigation now by prosecutors from the Eastern District of New York, according to a law enforcement source. Now, multiple reports allege Santos lied about his credentials during his campaign for office and about a lot of things: his education, his employment background, his religion, even his sexual orientation. Santos has admitted to, quote, embellishing his resume and said he is sorry. He's also under investigation by a district attorney in New York's Nassau County. The DA said in a statement that the alleged fabrications are, quote, nothing short of stunning. Now, NBC News has reached out to George Santos for a response. Tom Winter joins me now on set for this report, as well as bonus, a show and tell. We've got some documents. I know we're going to dive into this here. And you were telling me about some of the details here. So I just listed off a bunch of things here that, he purportedly lied about. But let's get a little bit specific about them. One of those being his finances. Some of the details I understand you've got here, it outlines how he said he went from making, what is it, $55,000 in 2020 to making millions in 2022. How does something like that happen? And tell us what you're seeing in these documents.
Exactly. So taking you a little bit behind the reporting, what we do when we start to dig into a candidate like this is start from the very beginning, not to quote Julie Andrews, and look at the initial filings in the financial disclosure reports from a candidate like this. This is his filing, he says, up until May of 2020. Now, this filing details his salary, and it shows that he made $55,000, just a single line. No other assets, nothing else that's listed here, again, up to May 2020. Now, looking at this document filed in September of this year, we have an entirely different picture here, Savannah. We're looking at millions of dollars. Look at that close-up, people.
Here. Look at those lines.
Yeah, we're talking about millions of dollars here in income, assets, a savings account, additional accounts, so an additional salary that was paid on top of that in other filings. So when you piece all of that together, you start to ask yourself, wait a minute, in a year and a half, how did he go from $55,000 in salary to somebody who's got an apartment in Brazil valued at $1 to $5 million, somebody who made $1 to $5 million in income, and he's loaning his campaign $750,000, indicates to us typically that there's a high level of liquidity here. In other words, he's got the cash on hand to be able to support that. Interesting, because NBCNews.com reported earlier this week that he had multiple evictions starting in 2014. So this is somebody who, by all appearances from the public record, had significant cash flow and liquidity concerns, and now all of a sudden he's loaning his campaign $750,000. This is quite a turnaround in fortune, obviously. And so for federal investigators, they look at that and say, well, what did he tell us on his tax forms? What types of income did he have? Where did that income come from? Does everything match up here? And of course, we're talking about a federal election, so for federal prosecutors, they have purview over that. That, I think, is going to be a key focus here.
And then, of course, you match that up with all the other things that I mentioned that are not quite adding up on the resume. It creates this very confusing picture. We don't have a lot of time left here, but I think an important question on people's minds is, people just voted for this guy. What does this mean? How could this potentially impact him actually being sworn into office?
Well, in the immediate term, according to our Capitol Hill team, it's not going to impact anything. He is going to be sworn into office. It's not something that can immediately kind of disqualify him, if you will. But if the pressure becomes too great, so far it doesn't appear that it has. If there are other issues from a criminal perspective, that could certainly make things much more difficult for him. But these investigations take time, Savannah. And while I can show you these two documents and we can look at these numbers and say they raise questions, they don't immediately imply illegality. That's work that has to go on. They're going to have to subpoena bank records, telephone records, email records, all those types of things to try to determine where everything came from and why and when, and interview people. Those things take time. Long story short, I don't think this is going to immediately impact his ability to serve in Congress unless he makes a decision himself.
All right, Tom Winter, a lot to keep our eyes on there for sure. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming by the studio. Now, cities across Ukraine today were hit by a massive Russian missile attack. It was the biggest wave of strikes in recent weeks, actually. Russian forces fired nearly 70 missiles and explosive drones across the country, according to Ukrainian officials. Many were intercepted, but others reached their targets. They knocked out power and water. It's the latest in a series of Russian airstrikes targeting Ukraine's energy grid. Matt Bradley joins me on this now. Matt, thanks for being with us on this. So how are the people of Ukraine handling these ongoing attacks on critical infrastructure? I can see behind you how dark it is. It's obviously winter. What does this mean for the people that live in these cities?
Yeah, I mean, for most people, and I hate to put it this way, Savannah, but the fact is that for most people, they're just getting used to it. And that might sound cavalier, and it isn't. But the fact is, this has been weeks, months of this, repeated attacks. Now, when you hear the air raid sirens here in Kyiv, people don't scramble for cover like they did in the early part of the war. They're more relaxed about it. And I even spoke with someone today who witnessed some debris falling onto a park where children normally play. And he was describing how normally he doesn't really rush to the shelters, and now that he's actually seen debris falling from the sky, he's going to be much more disciplined about getting to safety. But for a lot of people here, they just don't have that feeling. We don't have that feeling all the time, and because it just is so routine. And this is the thing, you know, when it comes to actual disasters, when people's homes are destroyed, when people are dying in front of you, that makes it different. That's something you can never get used to. And we did go today to the home of an elderly man who was living with his son, whose home was destroyed by falling debris. And, you know, for them, for that community, and it was a very small village outside of Kyiv, that's one of people getting together. I asked him, where are you going to sleep tonight? And he said he had 5 offers from neighbors to sleep, to put him up for that night. And this is an elderly man and his son. So, you know, a lot of this is just people getting together and helping each other out, exactly as you or I would do in this sort of situation. So, yeah, people are just kind of not getting used to it, but just learning how to deal with it.
Oh, absolutely, Matt. It makes you emotional to hear details like that, and your reporting is so important to really humanize something that like you said, there's this fatigue around it just generally, especially when we're so far from it. So those details mean so much. I think so many people are wondering, how could this come to an end? Is there an off-ramp? And based on what we've heard lately from President Putin, as well as his sort of dismissal of some options from the Ukrainian president, do peace talks seem at all like a possibility in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And, you know, we heard from President Putin earlier in this week. He was saying that he wanted to negotiate an end. And then we heard from the Ukrainian government saying that in that interview with the Associated Press, Dmitry Kuleba, he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs, saying they would convene some sort of peace conference before the end of February. But then both men, in their own way, kind of dismissed it or poured cold water on their own offers. And it just goes to show that in both cases, they're both sort of posturing toward peace because it does serve their interest. And the fact of the matter is both sides don't really want to relent. For the Ukrainians especially, they feel as though they are winning and they want to take back land that was, well, quite wrongfully taken from them. So they're not going to relent. They're not going to come to the peace table, and they're not going to invite the Russians to it. Savannah?
Matt Bradley, such strong reporting. Please stay safe. Thank you so much. Now, it's a release years in the making. Former President Donald Trump's tax returns will be made public tomorrow after almost 4 years of legal battles. The House Ways and Means Committee will release 6 years of Mr. Trump's personal tax returns and some of his business returns also, adding them to the congressional record during a House pro forma session. This comes after a release from the Joint Committee on Taxation that showed the IRS did not properly audit the former president's taxes while he was in office. Ryan Nobles joins me on this now. Ryan, thanks for being here. So this has been this long, drawn-out legal battle to get these tax returns released. I'm sure viewers feel like they've heard about this for so long, but now it's really coming down to the wire also because Republicans are set to take control of Congress next week. What do we expect to find out tomorrow?
So the expectation is that the House Ways and Means Committee will submit the full run of Donald Trump's tax returns into the public congressional record during a pro forma session of the Congress tomorrow. And along with it, they'll probably issue a press release that shows you where you can access the information. And that will be the first opportunity that the general public has to really dive in to these records. Now, whether or not it reveals anything new remains to be seen. Kind of the big top line bits of information that could be gleaned from these tax returns has likely already come out. The fact that the former president and his wife paid a scant amount of taxes, at least income taxes, in 3 different years, 0 taxes at all in 2020, $750 in 2 other years, and that was the result of massive business losses. That's something that has been reported and was part of the initial report from the Ways and Means Committee. What this extended look at his tax returns could show us is where his charitable donations went. It could give us maybe a glimpse into how his financial records work. But keep in mind, Savannah, that tax returns only tell a very small part of a much broader picture when it comes to a person's financial background. And it's unlikely that there are major bombshells that will occur tomorrow. But, for the committee's perspective, they believe this is important. They believe there needs to be reform to the program that audits presidential tax returns. It's a mandatory program. They'd like that to become a mandatory policy under official statute, which it currently isn't. And then, of course, there's just the matter of transparency. Donald Trump, the first president in 40 years to not release his tax returns to the public. And now this is going to be out there for everyone to see.
All right, Ryan Nobles, whether they're bombshells or not, obviously a lot to learn tomorrow, and we know you'll be on it for us. Thank you so much. Coming up, hospitals are filling up again with the spread of new COVID subvariants, where cases are highest, and how you can best protect yourself and your family, of course. That's up next. Welcome back. Now, while we're at the tail end of the holiday season, we might be right at the start of a new increase of COVID cases, I'm sorry to say. Right now, 3 subvariants are spreading: XBB, BQ1, and BQ11. Those are all mutations of that Omicron variant. Now, hospitalizations are up across the country. More people are in intensive care, and that's all just happened in the last 2 weeks. Deaths are also climbing again. They're up 15%, and this virus is still killing over 400 Americans a day. Now, there might be a touch of hope, though, for the triple-demic. That's that combo of COVID, RSV, that respiratory virus, and the flu. Well, flu cases have started falling for 2 straight weeks, but they are still higher than average. More than 40 states and Washington, D.C. still have high or very high flu activity. Joining us now on all this is NBC News medical contributor Dr. Azar. Dr. Azar, wonderful to see you. So tell us, what do we know about these subvariants? I know that's a word that freaks everybody out. We don't want to hear about new ones, but tell us what we do need to know.
Yeah, so I think the one that experts are most concerned about right now, Savannah, is the XBB. It appears to have mutations that are probably going to make it the most immune evasive of the new variants, even more than the BQ variants. So here's the thing. We've talked about this from the beginning. The COVID virus, SARS-CoV-2, is doing exactly what we always expected it to do, and that is to, garner these mutations that are going to help it get out of, being targeted by the vaccine or, prior infection. What we know, however, is that in spite of the fact that it doesn't appear that the vaccine will protect you against infection, the vaccines are still holding up very well to protect folks from severe disease. Now, right now we have, as you mentioned, cases are going up, deaths are going up, hospitalizations have stayed flat, which is a good thing, but we need to definitely also be making sure that we're sequencing all the infections that we are getting, and then the concern, of course, is that people aren't necessarily testing as much as they used to. So it's going to get a little bit hard to get a handle on how quickly these new variants are spreading in the U.S.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Azar, especially if a lot of people, like you just said, aren't really testing anymore, maybe they just had a super normal holiday season at home, what should people keep in mind if they're getting together this weekend for New Year's? What's a little something that they can take home with them?
Well, I mean, as you pointed out in the lead, Savannah, people are still dying from this disease, over 400 deaths per day. So if you are going to be gathering, that we're going to say the same things that we've been saying, and that is to do a rapid test before you gather with relatives, especially those who might be immunocompromised or friends. And if you're traveling, it's always a good idea to test when you land. You might want to test again when you get home from your destination. I know that people are tired of this whole, testing strategy and doing all of these things, but it's important. And masking every step of the way along your travels is exceedingly important, and that will very, very much protect you. The one sort of, at least a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel here is that, as I mentioned, in spite of the fact that these variants are more immune evasive, meaning that the vaccines aren't necessarily going to protect people from infection, they are protecting people from severe disease. So if it's been at least 3 to 4 months since your last shot or since infection, you definitely should get yourself the bivalent booster. About 95% of the people who are dying are not up to date on their shots and are over the age of 65 as well.
All right, Dr. Natalie Azar, great information there as we head into yet another holiday weekend. Thank you so much, and happy almost New Year to you. And now let's get over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the U.S. military says a Chinese military plane came within 20 feet of an Air Force jet in the contested South China Sea, forcing the American pilot to make evasive maneuvers to avoid a collision. Officials warn it's actually part of a trend of increasingly dangerous actions by the Chinese Navy. Now, number 2, a massive fire tore through a Cambodian hotel casino, killing at least 19 people and injuring 60 more, a number that officials warn will likely rise. The fire was so big that neighboring Thailand sent 5 fire trucks to help fight it. Authorities say an initial investigation suggests the fire may have been caused by holiday decorations overheating. Number 3, the FDA is adding sesame to its list of major food allergens starting January 1st. An estimated 1.6 million Americans have life-threatening allergies to sesame. Now, it's found in many food products, but not always listed. So this change means manufacturers will need to include sesame on labels, and they'll face new rules to regulate cross-contamination. Number 4, Twitter is back online after it suffered a major outage that left tens of thousands of users unable to access the site for about 5 hours. The company's CEO, Elon Musk, of course, tweeted later that they had made significant changes behind the scenes in order to feel faster for users. And number 5, in preparation for the New Year's Eve celebration here in Times Square, officials held the annual confetti test today. Some people got New Year's a little early. They say nearly 3,000 pounds of confetti will be dropped over the crowd as we ring in 2023. Now, let's get to the economy. There are new signs that the job market could be cooling off. Today, the Labor Department reported weekly new jobless claims rose to 225,000. That means the number of people filing for unemployment benefits edged a bit higher last week than the week before. So the question here is whether the Fed's moves to tame inflation is to blame, since they've hiked interest rates 7 times this year. Could that have made the labor market go from this whole rolling boil we've seen to just a simmer? Joining us now to help us answer that question is NBC News business and data reporter Brian Chung. Brian, great to have you here with us in the studio. So tell us, is this a sign that the job market is cooling? Walk us through these numbers.
Yeah, well, first, as you mentioned, it's important to note that it was a tick up than what we saw in the prior week when there were fewer than 225,000 claims filed for unemployment. But look, we have to understand the context of how many people usually file for unemployment.
Right.
And for that, let's look to before the pandemic. So in 2019, over the course of that year, it actually averaged about 218,000. So 225,000 is just a smidge above.
Right.
So it's not necessarily an alarming rise, but it is certainly higher than what we saw earlier in December. So the question naturally, we've also heard about tech layoffs happening.
Yes.
As of late, maybe this is incorporating some of that. It's hard to say. But regardless, there is a concern that as we get into 2023, if the economy continues to slow beyond what it's already been doing in 2022, maybe that throws more people out of work. That's why we watch this data source so closely.
The tech layoffs, that's a really good point. And especially when you hear about how massive some of those numbers were, it definitely makes sense that it could be factoring in. Let's talk about what I said about the Fed. I mean, are those interest rate hikes to blame here? I mean, you really just put in great context that it's really only a little bit higher than normal, but do these interest rates seem to be having that impact? Yeah,
and the jobless claims numbers are just, they kind of fluctuate so much. So we don't want to read too much in just one report week over week. But look, as you mentioned, the Federal Reserve has moved very, very aggressively over the course of 2022.
Oh, yes.
It's the fastest pace that they've raised interest rates since the 1980s, essentially. So because of that, there are concerns about what the impact of that is going to be in 2023, because it doesn't hit immediately. When the Fed makes borrowing costs more expensive, businesses and then people as well, because look, your credit card rates, look at your mortgage rates, they pull back on buying homes and then spending broadly. So the impact of that is still happening. And if that continues to happen, if people are not engaging with the economy, businesses are not investing as much, maybe that makes the economy slow to a point where, well, businesses then start to lay people off. It's not happening quite yet because the overall unemployment rate is still 3.7%.
Right.
3.5% was the lowest that we had seen since 1969. And we saw that 2 months in 2022. So the overall labor market picture as we turn the calendar looks good.
Right.
The question is if that changes and deteriorates in 2023.
Is there a number that you would look for, or an amount of these claims ticking up continuously, let's say week over week, that you think could maybe make the Fed say, okay, hey, there's a point where that's something that we can actually look to slow this interest rate hike?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, again, the claims number compared to 2019 pre-pandemic was around 218,000. So if you see the jobless claims on a weekly basis, on a sustained basis, come in much higher than that, that would show you, yes, that's certainly happening. But of course, the other big thing is just the unemployment rate. We get that in monthly reports. We'll get the next one next Friday, by the way. But that's definitely going to be a big indicator for whether or not joblessness is really rising in this country. For what's worth, the Federal Reserve is projecting that the unemployment rate will go up from 3.7% to 4.6% by the end of next year. Savannah, that would represent over 1.5 million people losing their jobs. Wow. Certainly very serious.
Yeah, it really is a lot for people worried at home about themselves, their families, their bank accounts. Absolutely. All right, NBC's Brian Chung, thanks so much. Appreciate you being here. Now, when we come back, the West Coast is preparing for even more heavy rain and snow, but it's not because of a hurricane. Tonight's breakdown is all about a phenomenon known as an atmospheric river, and why experts say it's about to become a lot more common. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are looking at a live picture of Times Square right here in New York City, just a couple blocks actually from our studio as they're getting ready for Saturday night's big New Year's Eve ball drop. Of course, what you're looking at right there will be packed with people come Saturday night. And lucky for them, the weather in the east is starting to clear up, but the west is being hit with another storm, something scientists call an atmospheric river is set to bring a ton of rain and snow to California today and tomorrow. 17 million people are under flood watches, winter weather alerts, and wind alerts. And get this, this is actually the second atmospheric river just this week. So you're probably like, stop saying atmospheric river since I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I didn't know either. This was also a learning exercise for me. It's not a typical river. It's one up in the sky. Here's the breakdown.
It's a weather event, and when it's severe, it can be catastrophic. It's not a hurricane or a tornado. It's called an atmospheric river. But what exactly is that? An atmospheric river is a narrow current of wind that carries plumes of rich moisture stretching for hundreds or even thousands of miles high across the sky, kind of like a big floating river. Technically, they're the largest rivers of fresh water on Earth, transporting on average more than double the flow of the Amazon River. When an atmospheric river sends tropical moisture over dry land and the moisture collides with mountains, like, say, California's Sierra Nevada range, for example, the water vapor rises and quickly cools, creating extreme rainfall. New models published by scientists at Scripps Institute of Oceanography predicted in the 2090s atmospheric river-related flood damage in the western U.S. will either double or triple, our greenhouse gas emissions being the determining factor. And even though all 58 counties in California are now under a drought emergency proclamation by the state, experts say increased precipitation is only going to make things worse. That's because millions of acres of California forests experienced wildfires in the last 2 years, leaving the top layer of soil temporarily non-absorbent. So when torrential rain hits, the water runs off, potentially triggering flash floods. While not all atmospheric rivers are dangerous, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecasters monitor them and issue warnings when necessary.
And get this, here's a fun fact. Pineapple Express, you know, that funny Seth Rogen movie. Well, that's also the name of an atmospheric river that travels from Hawaii to the West Coast. Who knew? Now you do. Now, that atmospheric river and those deadly winter storms we talked about earlier in the show are just the latest in what has been a really crazy year for climate change and severe weather events. We're talking record heat in London, record flooding in the Midwest, and you throw in wildfires, snowstorms, hurricanes. We've had it all. Meteorologist Dylan Dreyer looks at this year in review and how climate change made some wild weather swings.
2022, a violent year of climate and weather extremes. From heat waves and drought to catastrophic flooding and hurricanes, the impacts reverberating around the globe. So far this year, $15 billion weather disasters hit the U.S., according to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The final count yet to be tallied. The first billion-dollar disaster came in the spring when warmer temperatures fueled 3 deadly tornado outbreaks in as many weeks. Run! Spawning more than 200 reported tornadoes across more than a dozen states.
It's very devastating when you know, like it's all your hard work is just going up in the air.
In the West, sections of Yellowstone National Park were devastated by destructive flash floods. Roads were washed away, and the park closed to the public for the first time in 3 decades. Climate change causing the atmosphere to be warmer and wetter, making conditions ripe for these types of events.
It was very surprising how quickly it came.
This summer was a story of extremes. Europe had its most intense heat wave in recorded history. London set a historic all-time high of 104 degrees. Back in the U.S., 6 1,000-year floods occurred in the span of 5 weeks in July and August. Places like St. Louis, Dallas, and eastern Kentucky deluged with 8 to 15 inches of rain in just 24 hours. Death Valley received its entire year's worth of rain in just 3 hours. The footprint of climate change leaving its mark across nearly the entire U.S. Parts of the West baked in the most severe heat ever recorded in the month of September.
I've never dealt with something this hot before.
Nearly 300 weather stations hitting their hottest temperatures in places like Salt Lake City, Reno, and Sacramento. Meanwhile, already extreme drought conditions in the region worsened. Lake Mead's water level plunged to its lowest yet. The Bureau of Reclamation declaring a Tier 2 water shortage for the first time ever, hoping to avert a water crisis. After a slow start to the hurricane season, Category 4 Ian roared ashore southwest Florida with winds topping 150 miles per hour, tying for the 5th strongest hurricane ever to strike the United States. Neighborhoods in Fort Myers and Naples left in ruin. Warmer waters are acting as jet fuel, causing the storms to rapidly intensify. Just as the season was coming to a close, Category 1 Nicole became the first November hurricane to make landfall in nearly 40 years. Scientists attribute this to warmer sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean, this year running up to 3.5 degrees above average.
Nicole is the nail in the coffin for Daytona Beach shores. Ian came in and did all this damage, and now Nicole is just putting us away.
In upstate New York, winter arrived early when a massive November snowstorm rewrote the history books, burying neighborhoods and even the Buffalo Bills stadium under 80 inches of snow.
There's nothing in the store. You can't get a loaf of bread or anything.
Finally, with eerie similarity to last year, a series of deadly cool season tornadoes ripped through the South. More than 100 reported over 2 weeks across 7 states between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
This is my house right here, y'all. My house is just gone.
The December twisters, part of a massive week-long cross-country storm that dropped 4 feet of snow in the west, brought blinding blizzard conditions to the upper Midwest and dozens of tornadoes to the south. And the year's not over yet. Dylan Dreyer, NBC News.
Wow, what a year, especially when you see it all together like that. Thanks for that look back, Dylan. Coming up, the ban on TikTok growing larger by the day. How colleges say they'll restrict access on campus. Plus, a major first for New York City as of 4:20 p.m. Any guesses? That's all coming up in the local. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, as the holidays wrap up, college students head back to campus, of course. But for some, it might be harder to stay on top of all the trends. Well, why is that? Because it's going to be harder to get on TikTok. The University of Oklahoma and Auburn University in Alabama are banning TikTok on the school's Wi-Fi and devices. This follows each of those states' ban on the app on state-owned devices and networks. And this trend is growing. More than a dozen states don't allow TikTok on government-issued devices. Let's bring in our culture reporter, Callan Rosenblatt, for more. Hi, Callan. Great to have you on this. So TikTok bans are now trickling into universities. What actually started this wave? Take us back to where these issues with TikTok came from.
Yes, Savannah. So there have long been concerns about privacy and cybersecurity on TikTok. It is owned by ByteDance, which is based in China, and a lot of these governors have cited, concerns that TikTok is sharing data with the Chinese Communist Party. Now, there's no evidence that TikTok is sharing U.S. user data with the Chinese government. It says that it stores U.S. user data in the U.S. However, there have been real credible reports that TikTok is inappropriately accessing user data. There was a credible report that some ByteDance employees actually accessed a U.S. journalist's data. And there are concerns about what the privacy policy says, what data it can collect from its users. So this is a long-standing issue. And now we're seeing it, as you said, trickle down from government agencies, which some of them have banned TikTok on official devices, to colleges, which now are saying some of them are going to ban TikTok on official devices as well.
Absolutely. I know also, Callan, you spoke with some students at these schools. I mean, this would be an adjustment if college students are not able to just hop onto TikTok whenever they want, if they're on their school's Wi-Fi or on a laptop or something like that. I mean, what are you hearing from students? What's their reaction to this?
Yeah, so Savannah, my colleague Deja Tolentino and I spoke to some young people who basically said this is really frustrating to them. First of all, they're going to find ways around it. They're going to find ways to access TikTok no matter what, whether it's a VPN, not using the Wi-Fi. They said on their own devices, they will find a way. And they're saying, you know, it's frustrating. Sometimes they've used TikTok accounts to recruit people. There was one engineering department that said it had a TikTok account that helped sort of show off what the college did, and now that account has been deleted. And, you know, some have joked on social media that if the GOP, which a lot of these bans are in GOP-led states, if the GOP was concerned about youth voter turnout for them in the midterms, then they may be concerned with the general election with this TikTok ban.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Callan, do you think we're going to see this happening at more schools or organizations?
I do. It looks like this trend is going to continue to snowball, and it looks like there are real concerns. I mean, as you know, Savannah, the House has banned TikTok on official devices. It looks like it's going to continue to snowball, and I believe we will see more colleges that say, hey, we just don't feel safe with your data being on TikTok.
All right, Callan, thank you so much. Really interesting stuff. Now, NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done that work for you. And this is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we like to call The Local. From our West Coast bureau, prosecutors filed 4 more murder charges against an alleged California serial killer, bringing the total to 7 deaths since last April. Authorities say the suspect, Wesley Brownlee, worked as a truck driver and used an untraceable ghost gun for at least 3 of the murders. Now, from our Southern Bureau, nearly 1,500 bats were released back into the wild in Houston, Texas, after the city's recent cold snap caused them to freeze and fall to the ground. Look at that right there. Look at how many. They were suffering from hypothermic shock. Now, luckily, the local Humane Society rescued hundreds of them, nursing them back to health in incubators and providing fluids. And out of our Northeast Bureau, almost 2 years after New York State legalized recreational marijuana, the first legal weed dispensary in New York City opened today at, you guessed it, 4:20 p.m. It's run by the nonprofit Housing Works, and all proceeds from marijuana sales will go to helping people with HIV and AIDS. 35 more licensed dispensaries are set to open in the coming months. Now, still to come for us tonight, tech giants took a pretty big bet on the future of virtual reality. But there are new signs it's not really paying off. What's behind the slowdown? That's up next. Welcome back. Let's talk about the Metaverse. You know, that 3D virtual reality world? Well, it's supposed to be the next big thing, the future of tech. Well, VR headsets, those are what you need. That's what you see on people's faces in these pictures. We need them to enter the Metaverse, and they were a coveted gift last year. But this year, sales are down. So what does that say about the popularity of the Metaverse? Was it just a flash-in-the-pan trend, or are these just growing pains? Our Steve Patterson has more.
The animated future of the Metaverse is taking a while to render.
Here, you can find your community.
In 2021, virtual reality was the hot new space in tech, and VR headsets were nearly impossible to find. This year, a slowdown. Fewer people trying to find their way into the Metaverse, a virtual reality space where users can interact with a computer-generated environment and other users. And a developmental priority for big-name tech giants like Google and Apple, with Meta and CEO Mark Zuckerberg in particular going all in.
At Meta, we're focused on building the fundamental technology that will help bring the Metaverse to life.
Since the company changed its name from Facebook to Meta in late 2021, it has since spent more than $27 billion on Metaverse development. But Meta's commitment aside, skeptics remain, as evidenced by Meta's slumping share price. To experience the Metaverse, you need one of those VR headsets, which can cost anywhere from $200 to well over $1,000. And after a record-breaking 2021, where VR headset revenue in the U.S. more than doubled, as of this year, sales of the headsets in the U.S. declined 2%. Analysts say that although headset sales are down, it's most likely a temporary lag, particularly since Apple is expected to release its first attempt at an AR/VR headset in 2023.
I'm not sure it's accurate to say that there is, waning interest in the Metaverse. Consumers may be waiting for the next iteration to come out. And that's what we're seeing in our sales data.
Let's go! The metaverse is the digital equivalent of physical existence without physical limitations.
Jeremy and Sheikah Duncan have a Metaverse podcast. They say that although the Metaverse ecosystem is still in its infancy, it's here to stay.
I absolutely love everything that we have experienced with the Metaverse as far as the community aspect of it.
I really believe the Metaverse term is going to fade to the back, and it's really just the next computing platform.
All right, our thanks to Steve Patterson for that report. Now that's a wrap for this hour, but we'll have more for you here tomorrow, same time, same place, and coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.